County Manager's Report, Ms. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. I would like to start my report tonight on behalf of staff congratulating Commissioners Weisenbaker, Ornstein, and Marshall on beginning a new term with us in January. We're excited about 4 more years of your leadership and keeping the minimum of our county moving forward. So thank you for your willingness to serve, and Commissioner Marshall for your campaign success. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Real quick, a SPLOST 9 update. So staff has sent the architect all the former CAD drawings for the Carnegie Library. So the architect and the staff completed a detailed site assessment on May the 19th. So that outlines the list Commissioner Weisenbaker that you and Commissioner Evans had worked on with that board. And then for the governmental building, staff has found all the formal drawings for the building. The architect is going through those plans now to incorporate them into a CAD file. And the detailed site assessment is scheduled for the first week in June. So Mr. McLeod and I have already gone over and kind of outlined the scope of work there based on that budget. And we've turned that over to the architect, and they'll go through and do a detailed assessment. One of the questions that we have is, you know, some of those windows don't look great. So can the windows be repaired, or are we getting into a window replacement? That will kind of set the tone for the rest of the project, because if we have to replace windows, that's going to cost a lot more than if we can just reseal the current windows. So we're hoping that we've got some good options there. So then the architect will have a detailed schedule put together in June, and the goal is to bid before the end of 2026, and hopefully we will be starting construction shortly after that at the beginning of 2027. And of course, we will expedite that timeline based on architect's availability, and then the scope of work will somewhat determine that. But that's kind of worst case scenario and sort of where we are as far as our timeline goes.
That architect is glad.
Yes. The burn restriction. So as you know, the Lord has sent us some rain, and we're very grateful where that's concerned. Your questions related to that were very timely. We had our workshop, as we do every year beginning hurricane season, with the National Weather Service, and they started out with a drought update. So Kelly Godsey told us that we've gotten 5 to 7 inches of rain recently, but we're still below our annual average. This is an interim improvement. We are still dry overall. If this keeps up, though, they will eventually look at downgrading us to a D3 category. We are currently at a D4. We know, especially moving into hurricane, there's a lot of vegetation across the county that needs to be cleaned up. That also helps reduce our fire load. So staff plans to lift that boundary restriction with your blessing beginning June 1. Remember, this only impacts those in residential zoning areas. Those that are in agricultural areas fell under the governor's ban, and that has been lifted. So June 1 is the first next week that we have where residents can burn on a Saturday. If you remember, that residential burning for the unincorporated area is the first and third Saturday. So Ms. Barr will begin putting that information out so that people can prepare, not just those folks that are ready to burn, but also those folks that may be inconvenienced by outdoor smoke. We know that first weekend that there will be a lot, because folks have been waiting to get cleaned up. So we hope that everyone can make plans around that if they need to be inside during that period, or maybe just take a day trip while their neighbor burns. And we hope that not everyone decides to burn on that Saturday, but we are also prepared where the fire department and 911 are concerned to be very busy. Also, the minute that the governor lifted the burn ban, we dropped back to just issuing warnings for people. We have not been issuing citations.